Newton Highlands, in the suburbs of Boston, was entering its most beautiful season of fall foliage. Along the Charles River, maple leaves glowed like flames in the setting sun. The wind whistling through the street trees already carried hints of winter. In a corner of this tranquil residential area stood the Wilson family's white mansion. Built in the 1920s, this colonial-style house had been carefully preserved by generations of residents. The well-maintained garden in front of the entrance was adorned with colorful New England asters in full bloom, carrying on Boston's cherished traditions. The heavy wooden door bore a brass knocker that gleamed with the patina of time. The Wilson family living in this house was known as one of Boston's most distinguished educational families. William, the father, had recently retired after a long career as a professor of English literature at Boston University, leaving behind numerous publications as a leading Shakespeare scholar. Elizabeth, the mother, had taught at a prestigious local high school, where her gentle personality and reliable guidance had helped many students gain admission to top universities. Their lives dedicated to education had earned deep respect from the local community. The sisters born to these parents had taken completely opposite paths in life. Victoria, the elder daughter, had always commanded attention with her exceptional beauty and sociability. Cherished by her parents from childhood, her vivacious personality had charmed those around her. After graduating from a local beauty school, she worked as a beauty consultant at a high-end department store in Copley Place while steadily building her social media influence. Now, as a beauty influencer with 40,000 followers, she shared her glamorous lifestyle through brand collaborations and beauty-related event speeches. Her Instagram portrayed an elegant, celebrity-like existence, earning her devoted fans as Boston's beauty ambassador. Emma, the younger daughter, was reserved and avoided flashy behavior. Dressed in simple but high-quality branded clothes, she projected an intellectual air that contrasted sharply with her sister. However, her hidden talents were extraordinary. After earning her MBA from Stanford University, she made her mark in the investment industry, becoming president of the major investment firm Growth Vision Capital at just 32 years old. She kept a low profile, delegating operational duties to her COO while steadily building her industry reputation. Her investment decisions were consistently accurate, particularly showing remarkable success rates in technology company investments. It was at an investor party a year ago that Emma met James Carter, a Harvard Business School graduate and entrepreneur. As the founder of an AI technology startup, he commanded attention at the party with his refined appearance and intellectual discourse. That night, they engaged in passionate discussions about the future of technological innovation, strongly drawn to each other's intellect. This encounter would significantly change Emma's life. Her company was thriving, with annual assets under management exceeding $10 billion. Industry magazines praised her as the queen of new generation investment for her careful judgment and consistent results. During this time, Emma invested $5 million in James's company, a decision that attracted significant industry attention. However, recently, rumors had reached Emma's ears about frequent communications between James and her sister Victoria. Photos of them at the same parties began appearing on their Instagram accounts, and their social media interactions became increasingly noticeable. Their parents continued to dote on the elder sister, seemingly unable to appreciate the younger daughter's capabilities. Ironically, even these two successful educators couldn't see through to their daughters' true natures. One evening, the upscale French restaurant Le Jardin in Boston was wrapped in refined quietude. This establishment, newly opened in the historic location where L'Espalier once stood, had become impossible to book since its opening, famous for its modern French cuisine using New England ingredients. The Wilson family had gathered to celebrate Elizabeth's birthday. Under the soft light of crystal chandeliers, an elegant white rose arrangement graced the table. Outside the windows, Boston's nightscape sparkled like scattered jewels. Emma wore a simple black Chanel dress paired with a pearl necklace inherited from her grandmother. Victoria, in contrast, wore a deep red Versace dress, its bold open back drawing attention from those around her. James wore a new Tom Ford suit with the latest model Rolex, its blue dial quietly gleaming on his wrist. "Happy birthday, Mother," Emma said, presenting a carefully selected bottle of champagne. "Oh my, Dom Perignon 2008. This must have been very hard to get?" Mother's eyes sparkled. "Yes, a special bottle for a special year," Emma smiled. But behind that smile, her heart was unsettled. Since taking their seats, James and her sister had been exchanging frequent glances, and occasionally giggling while looking at their smartphones. While their parents seemed oblivious to this behavior, Emma could painfully see its unnaturalness. "James, how's your company doing lately?" Father asked. "Well?" James hesitated slightly. "We're exploring new developments." "That's wonderful," Victoria interjected. "I'm planning to promote James's company's new products on my Instagram." "We've already signed the contract, right?" Emma's chopsticks paused for a moment. As an investor, she knew her company's marketing budget. There shouldn't have been any room for new influencer contracts. As the course meal progressed, Emma's exclusion from the conversation became increasingly apparent. James and her sister exaggerated their responses to each other's words, occasionally leaning close together. Their intimacy was beyond what could be called coincidental. "Let's take some photos before dessert." Victoria stood up. "My followers must see tonight's dress." She stood next to James, naturally placing her hand on his arm. Her pose with the smartphone seemed practiced to perfection. "Hey, Emma," Victoria suddenly changed her tone. Her deliberately loud voice made nearby tables turn around. "Who do you think has the rich boyfriend? Someone as ugly as you should stay poor forever." The air in the restaurant froze. The parents were speechless, their faces showing confusion. A faint smile played on James's face. Emma slowly set down her wine glass. There was dignified authority in her quiet movement. She straightened her back and spoke in a calm voice. "Actually, his company is one of the enterprises I invest in. It belongs to Growth Vision Capital, which I manage." Saying this, Emma took a card from her expensive leather wallet and gently placed it in the center of the table. The text, "Emma Wilson, CEO, Growth Vision Capital," printed on quality paper gleamed under the chandelier light. The color drained from Victoria's face. The smartphone in her hand trembled slightly. James was completely rigid, his eyes showing clear disturbance. The parents stared at their daughter with dumbfounded expressions. The restaurant was enveloped in silence as if time had stopped. Growth Vision Capital. Father William read the card's text with a trembling voice. Isn't that the $10 billion scale? Emma nodded slowly. The gold foil company logo on the business card on the table reflected the chandelier light, sparkling. That gleam was like the light of truth. Yes, Emma's voice was ice-cold yet pure. Our investment portfolio includes over 50 technology companies. Among them is James's company. She took out a tablet from her luxury leather briefcase. The screen displayed investor presentation materials. $5 million investment. 40% equity stake. Majority board appointment rights. Emma recited the numbers matter-of-factly. In other words, James's company is effectively under my control. James's face turned wax white. His new Rolex took on an oddly prominent presence on his wrist. That means, could it be? Victoria's voice grew hoarse. But you've always been so plain. Emma smiled quietly. In the investment world, flashy behavior undermines credibility. My investment decisions are always careful and precise. That's why I'm highly regarded in the industry. She scrolled through the tablet, displaying graphs showing the company's performance. The upward curve eloquently told the story of its success. The Wall Street Journal last month praised our investment approach as the new era's investment standard. We're also listed in Forbes 30 Under 30. By the way, she looked at her sister, your Instagram's 40,000 followers don't even match the user base of our smallest portfolio company. At these words, Victoria's expression contorted. The luxurious lifestyle she had showcased on Instagram was merely sustained by her cosmetics counter salary and a few small advertising contracts. This fact was about to come to light. But why until now? Mother Elizabeth said with tears in her voice. Why didn't you tell us? There was no need to. My capabilities are proven by the numbers. There was no reason to boast to family. At that moment, James suddenly stood up. His movement knocked over an expensive wine glass, spreading deep red liquid across the tablecloth. This means... His voice trembled. A review of the investment. Emma spoke coolly. We were planning to discuss additional investment at next week's board meeting. $50 million in new investment. But now... At these words, the remaining color completely drained from James's face. His company had based its business plan on this additional investment. He knew better than anyone that without it, the company's survival was in jeopardy. Victoria struggled to speak. We've only been dating for 2 months. I know, Emma cut off her sister's words. Your relationship has been under investigation for 3 months. The day James first commented on your Instagram. The date of your first lunch. And even last weekend's secret meeting in Cape Cod. The restaurant's sommelier approached to recommend a new wine but quietly withdrew after sensing the situation. At surrounding tables, guests were whispering among themselves. Some had taken out their smartphones. But my followers, they should have influence. Victoria's voice gradually grew smaller. About 60% of your followers are fake accounts purchased from operators in India, Bangladesh, and the Philippines, Emma continued matter-of-factly. Your actual domestic active followers number around 4,000. That's what the data analysis shows. At that moment, a notification sound rang from Victoria's smartphone. Her hands trembled as she checked the screen. Her Instagram follower count had begun to drop rapidly. It's a social media cleanup campaign. Major platforms have adopted a fake account detection system developed by one of our portfolio companies. The timing is just coincidental. Father William felt his long-held pride as an educator crumbling. He seemed to be severely blaming himself for failing to see through his daughter's true natures. Mother Elizabeth was wiping endless tears with a handkerchief taken from her handbag. Suddenly, the restaurant manager appeared. "If you'd like, we've prepared a private room." Emma stood up slowly. Her bearing was filled with unprecedented dignity. She smiled gently at her parents. "Mother, I'm sorry for ruining your birthday." Saying this, she took out another envelope from her Chanel evening bag. "Actually, I purchased a small winery in Provence, France. I was thinking of it as your birthday present." Elizabeth's eyes welled up with fresh tears. But this time, they were tears of joy. "Let's move to the room," Emma said quietly. "We have a lot to discuss as a family." The private room at Le Jardin was wrapped in a different kind of tranquility from the main dining room. Deep red velvet curtains blocked out the outside world, and antique murals stood like backgrounds to a story. On the table, the 1982 Chateau Lafite Rothschild that Emma had ordered was being quietly decanted. "Now, let's discuss the specifics," Emma began while sending a brief message on her smartphone. At that moment, James's smartphone vibrated. His expression froze. "Just now, a notice of investment contract termination was sent to your company email." Emma's voice was surprisingly calm. Simultaneously, an emergency board meeting notice was sent. The agenda is management renewal. James was speechless, just gripping his wine glass. The trembling of his hand created small ripples in the liquid. "Wait!" Victoria cried out. "This is my fault. I was the one who seduced James." Emma smiled quietly. "You haven't realized that he deliberately approached you." The tablet screen displayed new materials. It showed James's company's financial statements. Red numbers occupied most of the screen. Cumulative deficit since founding, $1.5 billion. Monthly operating loss, $2.5 million. Working capital, enough for just 2 weeks. Emma coldly read out the numbers. "In this situation, without our additional investment, the company goes bankrupt." In other words, James's glamorous executive life ends. Father William suddenly looked aged. From his years of experience as an educator, he understood the gravity of the situation. Mother Elizabeth was too shocked to even open her mouth. But on Instagram, Victoria's voice trembled. Luxury cars, expensive watches, overseas trips. Leased, rented, and staged for investor presentations, Emma continued matter-of-factly. It's a common technique in the startup world. Creating an illusion of success to attract investors. At that moment, there was a knock on the private room door. It was Sarah Johnson, a partner at a top law firm. She was Emma's trusted legal advisor. "Everything is ready," Sarah reported concisely. From the legal procedures for contract termination to the proposal for new management appointments. The board meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Emma nodded and turned to James. "You have two choices." She took out a luxury fountain pen and showed two documents. First, a quiet resignation. "We'll pay $1 million in severance, and both parties avoid unnecessary drama." Emma slid the first document forward. "Second is—" "Wait," James interrupted with a hoarse voice. "I'll accept the first option." The room's atmosphere relaxed slightly. "A wise decision," Emma said quietly. "Sarah, please handle the procedures." After signing the legal documents, James stood up as if collapsing. He looked at Victoria one last time. There was no more calculated friendliness, just a tired expression. "I'll take my leave," he said in a small voice and left the private room. Silence fell. Emma turned to her parents. "I'm sorry I couldn't show you my true self for all these years." Father William heaved a deep sigh. "No, we should be the ones apologizing. We couldn't see our daughter's true worth. We were too fixated on superficial things," Mother Elizabeth said tearfully. Captivated by Victoria's flashy success. At that moment, Victoria suddenly stood up. Her makeup was smeared, and her eyes were bloodshot. Her voice trembled. "What should I do from now on?" Emma quietly looked at her sister. There was no longer the coldness of a victor, but the warmth of a sister had returned. "Your experience as a beauty consultant is legitimate credentials. Your social media knowledge can be valuable if used in the right direction," Emma said gently. "If you wish, I can arrange an opportunity for you to work as a marketing advisor for a cosmetics brand at one of our portfolio companies. However," she took a breath. "This time, compete with real ability." Victoria, after a long silence, nodded slightly. At that moment, there was another knock on the private room door. "Madam," the sommelier politely called. "The champagne has reached the optimal temperature." Emma looked at the Dom Perignon she had prepared to celebrate her mother's birthday. Once again, she raised her glass and smiled at her mother. "Happy birthday, Mother. From now on, let's cherish our true family time." Against the backdrop of Boston's night view, a new family story was about to begin. Boston's winter was unusually mild that year. On the top floor of the Prudential Tower, Growth Vision Capital's office was holding its year-end investment report meeting. "Now, I'll report on the new investment projects for the fourth quarter." The presenter was Victoria Wilson. Instead of her former flashy red dresses, she wore a navy pantsuit and spoke with a confident expression. The rise of D2C brands in the cosmetics industry is bringing major changes to existing distribution structures. Our proposed new investment target, Pure Beauty Lab, has the potential to lead this transformation. The investors gathered in the conference room took notes earnestly. Victoria's practical experience in the beauty industry and social media marketing insights were proving more valuable than expected. Emma listened to her sister's presentation with a quiet smile. Over these 3 months, Victoria had shown remarkable growth. She read materials until late on weekends, honed her industry analysis skills, and above all, learned the joy of being recognized for real ability. The investment committee unanimously approved the investment in Pure Beauty Lab. It was Victoria's first successful investment case. Meanwhile, James's company was in the process of reconstruction under new management. While Emma's judgment maintained minimal working capital, it became clear that its technological capabilities had been overvalued in the market. He himself had started working as an ordinary engineer at a small startup in Silicon Valley. That night, a family dinner was held at the Wilsons' new home. The parents had sold their large suburban house and moved to a more convenient townhouse in the Back Bay area. "Victoria, your presentation today was wonderful," Mother Elizabeth said with a warm smile. "Thank you, Mother," Victoria replied somewhat shyly. "But I still have so much to learn." "My, how humble you've become," Emma said playfully. No trace left of that selfie-obsessed person from before. The sisters laughed together, slightly embarrassed. Their former conflicts had now become amusing anecdotes. "Actually, I have an announcement," Emma began. "Starting next month, I'll be serving as a part-time lecturer at Stanford Business School. The topic will be sustainable investment and corporate ethics." "Oh my!" Father William's eyes lit up. "My daughter," standing at the lectern. The entire family felt a warm glow seeing their father's proud expression after his long career as an educator. "Oh, that reminds me," Victoria chimed in. "My YouTube channel has surpassed 20,000 subscribers. And this time, they're real followers." She now runs a channel called Working Women's Beauty, sharing makeup techniques and business grooming tips for career women. Her sincere content has been steadily gaining fans. "Oh, how lovely," Mother said. "I actually referenced your 5-minute pre-meeting impression makeup a video myself." "Mother," both sisters exclaimed simultaneously. "But you've retired from teaching." "Well, I'm starting a volunteer English class. Don't I want to make a good impression on my students?" Warm laughter filled the living room. Outside the window, the sun was setting beyond the Charles River. Next week would be Thanksgiving. This year, they planned to spend it at the winery in Provence. Emma's smartphone vibrated discreetly. It was a message from a new business contact. This would be their third dinner together. Their conversations had naturally been extending beyond business topics. But for now, that reply could wait. Before her was precious time with her family. The wine glasses on the table reflected soft light. It was a gentle gleam that seemed to herald the beginning of a new story.